As long as it's in the next 30 seconds.
Hi, I'm Isaiah, and I'm going to be, my speech is going to pertain the negative possible impacts of the minimum wage increase in California. So the increase of minimum wage to $15 in California can lead to major setbacks in the employment of unskilled and inexperienced workers, the rate of entrepreneurs, and the motivation for progression for teens and college graduates. My first point is that the increase of minimum wage in California will reach the highest point in the world. To quote Alan Kruger, a professor of economics in Princeton, a 15 an hour national minimum wage would put us in uncharted waters and risk undesirable and unintended consequences. Every 10% increase to minimum wage is followed by an increase of unemployment by 4.6 to 9% for teenagers. And this was said by a study by the University of Georgia in 2006. Despite this stark reality, labor groups and unions have been pushing a higher minimum wage in California for decades. And unfortunately, this increase in minimum wage will lead to the replacement of human workers with cheaper and more efficient robots and machines. To quote Charles Lane from the Washington Post, a 10% permanent increase in the real minimum wage reduces employment by about 0.7% after 3 years, with the greatest impact felt by younger workers and in industries with a higher proportion of low-wage workers. This disproportion in low-skilled workers in our economy could collapse the current system we have, causing chaos and turmoil within our commercial section. In comparison to past successful corporations, especially Fortune 500 organizations within the 19th and 20th centuries, they had massive they had a massive amount of employees, excuse me. For example, Fortune 500 companies such as Google and Facebook now have under 50,000 employees, replacing all of their, or many of their employees with more efficient technology due to the minimum wage increase. Despite this, Governor Jerry Brown titles this motion a serve of economic justice, but one cannot help but question the practicality of this issue. My second point is that the drastic increase of minimum wage in California can possibly dissuade potential business owners from ever even thinking about opening any businesses due to the costs that might entail them. Entrepreneurs will be hesitant to make small businesses due to the massive initial cost of capital and labor, which are two of the four factors of production which are necessary for a healthy business. With the high initial cost to capital and labor, entrepreneurship is riskier, which can lead to a wage earned less than even the raised minimum wage for business owners. On top of this minimum wage and decreased profit for business owners, they also have to worry about providing benefits to their workforce. For example, Noda Brewing Company in Northern Carolina earns $6 million a year. But with talks of an increased minimum wage to $15, Noda can lose up to $40,000 in profit due to these changes. With the introduction of newer and bolder technology, jobs and money can be made without a large labor force, but at a large initial cost, even scaring prospective entrepreneurs. With my third and final point, teens and college graduates are finding it increasingly difficult to find jobs. Motivation and drive will naturally decrease as their job. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Motivation and drive to score a high-paying job will decrease dramatically. A study by the Employment Policies Institute in 2016 shows that teen unemployment in California will rise to be above 20% by 2017. Another study by the Associated Press states that 53% of America's recent college graduates are either unemployed or working in a job that doesn't require a bachelor's degree. With the economy improving under the Obama administration, a massive hike in minimum wage might offset the stream of employment for teens and young adults in California by itself. According to the U.S. Census, the number of Americans with bachelor's degrees under 25 years old has increased by 38% since 2000. However, not nearly enough jobs have been created to accommodate them. With an increase of minimum wage in California, many businesses will not be able to accommodate the influx of fresh and potential employees. As for teens, a 1995 Michigan State University study showed a higher minimum wage was found to increase the number of idle teens, which are teens who are neither working nor attending school, by as much as 20%. With the closing opportunities for teens, young adults, and college graduates to get jobs, many will become discouraged and unmotivated to even apply for the jobs that they would want to. With the market now flooded and saturated with diplomas and degrees, even more technical and specific skills are becoming increasingly desired, lowering the chances for green and inexperienced job seekers to get the jobs they want. In conclusion, although the ultimate goal should be to allow even low-skilled workers and unexperienced workers to make a reasonable income, it is far too early and the wage hike is far too drastic to feasibly do any good for the economy of America. Due to the possible setbacks in the employment of unskilled, inexperienced workers, the rate of new entrepreneurs, and the motivation for teens and college graduates. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you do a nice job speaking to the audience. I thought that was pretty effective. The summary at the end, I think, is clearer than you have at the beginning of the speech. I know the topic is the minimum wage. The phrasing of the proposition is a little bit complicated, and I'm not even sure that you have phrased it as a proposition of fact, so I think it needs to be a little bit clearer. You do signpost the structure very clearly in the body of the speech, though. I thought you did a good job on that, and those were usually phrased as claims, but sometimes the language of those claims kind of hides the argument that you're making. And we talked about that. I think if you were a little bit more direct, it would be clearer and easier for people to follow. Although if people are listening closely, they'll know what the argument is that you're making on those individual points. The strongest, the strongest element of the speech is the use of information. You've got a lot of authorities that you're quoting. You've got a ton of statistical information that you're citing. Usually you provide sources for most of that information. There were a couple of places where I thought that there was some material that was being presented that sounded like it was authoritative and being quoted, but you are not citing the sources on that. And other times that you're giving us the source citations. So you want to be careful about too much of a data dump. I do think that you explain ideas pretty well, but like I said, sometimes the explanations that you're presenting sound like that's quoted material that's not being attributed, and you want to be careful about that. Yeah, that's fine. There we go.